Mike Lieberman, back again with the 10-second interview show. I am your host. He is your guest, Dr. Charles Lieberman. Chuck, just a reminder for everybody who's never seen the show before and everybody who has, I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You have 10 seconds to answer each question, hence the show, the 10-second interview show. All right, it's not rocket science. We're not reinventing the wheel. I have had a long day here dealing with tech companies. Not as long of a day as the Ayatollah in Iran is having. That dude is running for his life. All right, so Chuck, big issue, Middle East at war, spillover effects. It does seem like it's moving to Endgame fairly quickly. 10 seconds or less. Nate, throw up the clock if you could. Chuck, this seems to be going fairly well for the Israelis. What could still go wrong here? 10 seconds or less.
Well, the Ayatollah and Iran are clearly sinking very rapidly and running out of ways to attack. So he could get desperate, try to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, lob missiles at Saudi Arabia, try to broaden the attack. But none of those are smart. None of them would be likely to occur.
Okay, but a cornered animal, if you will, has the ability to lash out. What happens to oil prices in those scenarios, right? I got to think Straits of Hormuz, 20% of oil moves through there, wildly problematic. I got to think lobbing something that does damage at Saudi Arabia, wildly problematic. Of course, ironically, Iran currently sits as the president of OPEC in terms of their rotation of who's president. Irony, I don't know, but Chuck, that has to be a concern for oil markets.
Absolutely, and you can see that Trump's decision to come back from the G7 meeting and potentially become a lot more aggressive, that was sufficient to cause the stock market to go down and oil prices to jump. But this is market fears running amok. I don't think it's likely to be realized.
Let's talk about sort of downstream effects of this, right? Clearly the Iranian weapons-making capabilities have been destroyed. With that comes a lot of drones, which were being sold to Russia to be used against Ukraine. Is one of the impacts, one of the effects of this war, perhaps the slowing down of that war?
Unquestionably. Iran was a big backer of Russia with weaponry, and obviously their ability to even export that weaponry is gone, but they may not even have that much weaponry left. So it definitely hurts Russia as well.
Assuming now Iran collapses, and I guess there's really 2 types of collapse. I mean, you were trading text messages about this. There's 2 types of collapse, right, of government. There's one where the people kind of march on, like the USSR, right? When that collapsed, society sort of went on. And then there is Baghdad. When that collapsed, society imploded. Let's assume that the Iranians, as sort of an advanced society, march on. What does a modern Iran look like for American investment, right? The audience here, largely investment-related people, financial advisors. Saudi Arabia has gotten very tech-savvy, right? They're buying a lot of American tech, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of, I'm assuming, hotels and the whatnot. What if the whole Middle East became sort of, that pin that was holding everything back was Iran? What does the Middle East look like for American companies?
Oh, it looks vastly brighter. Iran was the chief architect of terrorism around the world, and especially, of course, in the Middle East. If Iran goes, the Houthis fall. Most Iranians are pro-West. They're actually pro-U.S. Many of them are happy that the Ayatollah and his team is under fire from Israel and likely to get destroyed. They would love to reattach to the West. So I think it would open up investment opportunities for American companies, certainly in Iran and probably elsewhere in the Middle East.
It's interesting because, most people don't really think about the total consequence of the action that started this. What was the original domino, right? And I kind of think a little bit about September 11th where, Al-Qaeda attacked the World Trade Center, and that resulted in, right, the Taliban being toppled, into Iraq being toppled, into all these things that didn't, the dominoes fell, which clearly were not thought of, I'm sure, as part of their planning. This October 7th happened, and you've seen the, Hamas gone, Hezbollah gone, Iran gone, what will be the Houthis gone. You see this domino, which I sincerely doubt was what they thought of, but the world is a better place for it.
Yeah, they clearly were okay with the attack on Israel on October 7th. They thought that Israel would be gone. At the time, Israel was surrounded by a Syrian government that was anti-Israel. They had Hezbollah ready to launch thousands of rockets at Israel from relatively close to Israel. That would have been devastating. Hamas was thought that they were going to march into Israel. Hamas was very disappointed that Hezbollah didn't really attack Israel in a major way. They did launch rockets, and the Israelis basically took them out. And that started off a string of collapses across the Middle East. Syria, obviously, complete turnover of the government there. And now we're probably very close to a turnover of the government in Iran.
Yeah, right. Syria was the other one I forgot. All right, let's talk about if there was the need for greater U.S. military intervention. I get it, right? We're not a political show. There are many people who are saying no more wars. People who are saying we have to do it. Doesn't matter, right? Because our opinion is irrelevant. If the U.S. was to get more involved from a military perspective, is that recessionary? Is that good for defense contractors? U.S. obviously has a big military budget. What does that look like? Or is it just inconsequential?
Well, first of all, I don't think we're going to get more involved. We might attack Fordo, the nuclear facility that's deep underground, but if so, it would be to help topple the Iranian regime. If the Iranian regime goes, either because of internal revolution or because we attack Fordo, it just brings peace to the Middle East. So I would think defense contractors would be less attractive as an investment, because with Iran gone, the Middle East will be vastly more peaceful. Wouldn't surprise me if there are a whole bunch of new security arrangements within the Middle East between Israel and some of its Arab neighbors. So I think that would lead to a Pax Americana, less spending on defense, more consumer confidence, more investment confidence, not only in the U.S., but in Europe and elsewhere. And Russia might be more inclined to settle its battle with Ukraine because they're going to lose Iran as a supplier. And all of a sudden, they're dealing with a more emboldened United States in international affairs. Putin does not want to do that, doesn't want to have to deal with us. So I think this would be a major watershed event.
Because it's a major watershed event, that's the only reason we let you go over 10 seconds there. That was like a 10-minute answer. So with that, like and subscribe, everyone. Like and subscribe. If you like the show, then subscribe to the show. You'll get it updated, fed to you directly by YouTube. Exciting things coming from ACM in the not-too-distant future on the marketing front. That's where we're going to leave it from now. But very exciting announcements coming your way. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.